all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. It's news that's nightly about the Redskins. Welcome to the Redskins Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So the Redskins are set to take on the Miami Dolphins in what has been dubbed the Toilet Bowl. On Sunday, two winless teams looking to remove their zero. And as I always like to say in games and in situations like this, someone's O must go. And the Redskins are 0-5 on the season. Meanwhile, the Dolphins are coming off of a bye and they're 0-4 on the season. Now, a lot of people have been saying, well, there's a stark contrast between the two teams, not because of their records or the way they've been playing this year, but one team is doing it intentionally, the other is not. You can assume which is which, but at the end of the day, neither of these teams have a win to their name, and both teams are looking to get off the schneid. The Redskins head into this game with a multitude of changes, none bigger than the one at head coach. Jay Gruden out. Interim head coach Bill Callahan, promoted from offensive line coach, is in, and he's made a number of changes. Probably the biggest is his philosophical change, which will be more of a run game on offense, which will hopefully take pressure off of the quarterback position, which has been abysmal for the Redskins this season, and a defense that has been less than stellar and probably the most disappointing element of this team altogether. If the offense is able to go through the run game and able to keep the defense off the field, control time of possession, and hopefully end drives with touchdowns, this could be a different outcome for the Redskins, the first time they would have tasted victory in 2019. A lot of things were said at the podium today as Bill Callahan had his first Thursday press conference. Yesterday, he had his first post-practice presser. Today, he talked about practice yet again, talked about some guys via injury. Not much injury talk. We'll get to what was said at the podium here in a second, but I'll leave you on this in terms of the lead story. The Redskins are looking to change the narrative this season. They continue to push the narrative that they are not done, that this season is not over. If they're serious about that, which I seriously doubt, start 0-5. Generally, you're not going to dig yourself out of an 0-5 hole. And if you look at the Redskins' schedule, it's not conducive to the Redskins digging themselves out of an 0-5 hole. However, if you are looking to make yourself respectable and make this season not a train wreck, it needs to start on Sunday versus the Dolphins. And honestly speaking, if the Redskins continue in the direction that they're going in this year, this could ultimately be the deciding factor between who has the number 1 pick overall in the draft and who ends up with the 2nd pick in the draft. Not saying, just saying. So with that being said, let's get to in other news. So both interim head coach Bill Callahan and defensive coordinator Greg Manusky spoke at the podium after practice today. And we'll start with Bill Callahan. Not much different in what we've talked about in the past couple of weeks with Greg Manusky, but we'll talk about the little bit that you could take from what was said by him here in a second. But we start with Callahan and his approach to practice and what he's done differently. We talked about practice yesterday and how they had the bikes on the side of practice, so the guys that are injured and rehabbing and trying to get their way back onto the field, they can be continuing to get loose. And really his idea there is he wants to show the players that are on the practice field that these guys are working hard to try to get back and that those guys are out on the bikes on the practice field as well. He also talked about yesterday that, you know, he had the stretch lines a little bit different with the leaders of the team, the captains up in front leading the team stretch. Just a little bit of something that he wanted to add. I talked about the referees yesterday being added to practice. He said this, and he said this today. This is something that he did regularly in or the teams that he was on the staff in Dallas and New York with the Jets. He said this was standard operating procedure for those teams, and he wanted to implement that here. So again, he had the officials at practice looking at the Redskins, watching what they were doing to try to help them be better in the penalty department. He also talked about doing some one-on-one drills in practice today, and how that's not something that you see from the Redskins on a normal basis. Generally, that's something you see out in training camp. The corners and the defensive or the wide receivers going one-on-one, the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen going one-on-one. He said he wanted to kind of get the competitive juices flowing. It's something that you see on the field every single Sunday, and it's something that these guys have to replicate. So why not do it in practice? Sounds good to me. Sounds very logical. I mean, receivers are covering or going against DBs. DBs are covering receivers one-on-one on Sundays. Why not do it in practice and replicate that? And so makes a lot of sense to me. And it's funny that Adrian Peterson obviously said that this was the best week of practice he's had since he's been a member of the Washington Redskins. Go figure. Callahan talked about 3 to 4 minutes of what was a 10-minute press conference about Adrian Peterson's ability to run for 1,000 yards last year, and how he hasn't gotten enough touches this year. And as he continued to say, he hasn't gotten a chance to get lathered up this season and in games. And so what that tells me is we're going to see a hell of a lot of AD in this football game, upwards of 20 carries. I don't think any back on this team has had more than 14 in any given game. So expect Adrian Peterson early and often in this football game. He also made mention of the fact that he wants to stay ahead of down and distance, ahead of the sticks. And that's something I've talked about all season long. We've really struggled in that department. A lot of times we're getting penalties on first or second down. It's putting us down in distance-wise behind the sticks. And you're ending up in 3rd and 11s, 3rd and 10s. And this offense just isn't built to pick those up on a consistent basis. And so he talked about being in advantageous situations. And he even talked about not even getting the 3rd down. How about you convert on 2nd down? How about you convert on 1st down? Convert a 1st down on 1st down. And that's something this offense used to do. When Kirk Cousins was here, there were a lot of times where we wouldn't even get to 3rd downs. It would be a 1st down on 1st down or a 1st down on 2nd down. And if we got to 3rd down, it would be 3rd and short. Or if we got to 3rd and long, we had the offense and the ability to be able to convert on 3rd down. So he wants to stay ahead of the sticks. With this offense and the offensive line kind of battered and bruised the way that it is, it's important, it's imperative that we stay ahead of the down and distance. And he made mention of that and spoke about that at great lengths, and said that that's something the Redskins have to be better at. And they actually had a period of practice that he said was dedicated to trying to make sure that the Redskins were in some really good situations. And they ran some 1st down plays, ran some 2nd down plays to put them in positions to be in 3rd and short or even convert on 1st and 2nd downs. He also talked about the quarterback position, said that, look, we're just continuing to work. He did not name a starter, but again, the consensus out there is that Case Keenum, if healthy, will be the starter. Case Keenum, I think, was healthy enough to go last week. I think he's going to be healthy enough to go this week, and I think Callahan will name a starter tomorrow, and I think that guy will be Case Keenum. Now, the real question will be who's the backup quarterback, because they're not going to dress 3 quarterbacks. So the real question, I think, isn't who's going to start. I think we feel like we know already that Case Keenum's going to be named the starter. The real question then becomes who's going to be your backup quarterback and who's going to be the inactive quarterback. Obviously, the backup will be the backup, and the guy left out of that group will be your inactive quarterback. Will that be Dwayne Haskins for the first time this season? We will see. I think at this point now, if Jay would have done something like made Dwayne inactive, it would have been a story. If Callahan does it, he's already said that that's a possibility. Jay never mentioned that as a possibility. So I guess it won't be as controversial if Dwayne isn't dressed, but we'll see what happens. At this point, if I want Dwayne to be in a position to be backup, so if something happens to Case and he can't finish the game, or if he has an abysmal game and you think you need to go to your backup, you do so. But it is what it is at this point. I really just want Dwayne to start. So honestly, him being in the backup capacity probably doesn't make that big of a difference. But I guess it would if, say, Case Keenum gets injured on the first drive of the game and Dwayne essentially has to come in and play the entire game. I guess that would make a difference. So in any event, that's what we're probably going to hear about tomorrow, who's going to be the starter, who's going to be the backup, and then the inactive quarterback. As you move on to Greg Manusky, not really much to take from what he talked about. He talked about last week's game and how the reason that they weren't able to have success in the second half is because the Patriots ran the football. Well, that's what I said. I told you the Patriots made an adjustment, and that's what Manusky said. Well, the Patriots made an adjustment. They actually ran the football in the second half, and he said we didn't have enough oomph to stop the run, which I don't know what the hell that actually means. But I think we have the players to be able to stop the run. I think Jonathan Allen was healthy. Ioannidis was healthy. Payne was healthy. Trayvon Hester was up. I think we had enough guys, and Tim Settle, if I'm not mistaken. We're all active and playing. So we didn't have enough oomph to stop the run. Don't really know what the hell that means. But they essentially, the Patriots being they, essentially lined up and told us they were running the football, and we couldn't do a damn thing about it. And that's the problem with this defense this season. One of the many problems, including third down defense, which was actually really good last week versus the Patriots. But the Patriots did us a huge favor last week by just simply throwing the football in the first half a ton, which allowed us to get some third down stops. But all in all, Manusky didn't say anything different. They asked him about his job security. He said, look, Callahan hasn't talked to me about anything other than wanting to get pressure on the quarterback. And so that's something that we both understand we need to do. He said, I also love the fact that they're going to run the football more. That's going to take some of the pressure off of the defense. That would be great. So Manusky didn't say anything of note. All he pretty much said is that, yep, we're going to get an opportunity to go against another young quarterback. We had some success a couple of weeks ago versus Daniel Jones. We're looking to duplicate that versus Josh Rosen. But, we just got to go out, be physical at the point of attack, yada, 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 yada. It's the same nonsense he's been spewing. The defense is still tragically bad, and so we'll see if they can be better against a offense that hasn't been very good in Miami this season. But as I told you before their bye week, they were trending in the right direction, and if not for the miscues and the Dolphins simply being the Dolphins and doing what I like to call that Dolphins shit, they would have been in ball games and potentially had a chance to win, even against Dallas. They should have been leading at halftime. The following week, they were up early in that ball game and had a chance to really be in that game at halftime, and then they blew it. So this is a Dolphins team that was playing much better prior to the bye week. We'll see if they're able to put things together against a Redskins football team that just simply hasn't been good at all in any phase of the game this season. And I wish someone would have asked, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send JP Finley a tweet and ask him to ask Bill Callahan if he's going to put Steven Sims back on punt returns. This has to stop. Trey Quinn doesn't want to be back there. Steven Sims would love the opportunity to field punts. We got to get him back there. And I think that someone needs to ask him to do that and see if his head is in that position or if he's not even thinking about that. Trey hasn't done anything wrong, so we'll just leave him back there. That's bullshit. How about you get a guy back there that might be able to actually take one to the house? So with that being said, let's get to what it'll take for the Redskins to get the victory in Week 6 against the Miami Dolphins. What will it take to win? And my final outcome. So, look, nothing has changed. It's essentially the same thing I preach every single week. Got to take care of the football, be nice to force some turnovers, got to limit the penalties. I think we're going to see a much more disciplined football team. I really, really do. I'm serious. I think the Redskins are going to look much more prepared. I think they're going to look much more disciplined. I think you're going to see a team that looks like they have their shit together. And this is what you have to understand. Generally, when you get a brand new head coach in there, interim head coach in the middle of the season, or in the case of the Redskins at the beginning of the season, essentially, because this is really early for an interim head coach. Generally, you get to at least week 8, week 9, towards the end of November, early December, before you start seeing head coaches being removed from their duties. We're literally in the first week of October when Jay Gruden got fired. So that is a massive change, but that's nor here nor there. Bottom line is when you change head coaches, there's usually a temporary boost that you get. You know, the team wants to play and wants to win for that new guy. They want to rally together and rally around each other and win. And so you're going to, and we've seen this in the past. We saw it with the Browns last year. We saw it with the Dolphins a couple of years ago when Dan Campbell took over for Joe Philbin. This is what you get. I think we didn't necessarily see it with the Packers 2 years ago or last year when they got rid of Mike McCarthy. But generally speaking, when you fire a head coach in season, there is a temporary boost that you get. Now, it does not usually last more than a week or two, but temporarily, that first game, those first 2 games or so, there is a boost that you get. That the team wants to play extremely hard for the new coach. They want to go out and they want to win. They want to present them with a game ball after the game. And so I think you're going to see that from the Redskins. I think they're going to come out invigorated in this football game. They're going to run the football. Callahan has talked about establishing the run game and having that be a bigger part of the offense. We'll see if he holds true to that. I don't doubt it. He's an offensive line coach. He preaches the run. That's always been his MO. And so I don't doubt that they're going to run the football. How effectively is the question. I don't doubt that they're going to run it 20, 25 times in this football game. The question isn't, are they going to run it? It's how effective are they going to be? You can run the football all you want, but if you're running to nowhere, then it's going to be of no consequence. So I want to see how effective this rush offense is going to be. And again, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt because, as I mentioned yesterday, if the Redskins run for 200 yards in this football game, guess what? They're doing it against the worst rush defense in all of football in the Miami Dolphins. So honestly speaking, I watched a game 3 weeks ago in which the Dolphins gave up 200-yard rushers against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, get it. That's the Dallas Cowboys. And that offensive line is as good as it gets in this league in terms of run blocking. So, yes, the Cowboys are capable of putting 2 different guys on the football field and rushing for 100 yards apiece with both of those backs. Are we capable of doing that same thing? Hell no. Our offensive line isn't as good as theirs, and we don't have the backs capable of doing that. So I don't anticipate us doing what the Cowboys did, but can we rush for 100 yards this week for the first time this season? We haven't even cracked 50 yards rushing in any given game this season until last week when Steven Sims, who had to bust off a 65-yard run just to get us over the 50-yard plateau for the first time this season. I don't anticipate us running for 137 yards or 157 yards or 170 yards, but can we crack 105 yards in this game? Yeah, it's possible if we stick to the run and we're consistent with it, and the Dolphins give us some opportunities to break off 12 and 13 and 14-yard runs. Yeah, we may be able to do some damage in this football game, but again, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt because it is the Miami Dolphins, but running the football, and Case Keenum can't miss the deep ball when it presents itself. We're going to get opportunities. If the run game is as prevalent as Bill Callahan claims it's going to be, that means the Dolphins are going to have to commit an extra defender to the box, which means we should get opportunities one-on-one with Scary Terry over the top, with Paul Richardson over the top, with potentially Trey Quinn, who we saw get loose a couple of times versus the Giants, wide-ass open down the field, and Case missed him. Down the field, you can't afford to miss those opportunities. Case is going to have to hit those deep shots and take advantage of some big play opportunities because, again, you don't want to count on this Redskins offense to have to go 12 plays, 87 yards to score. We just aren't disciplined enough as a football team to avoid a penalty here or a bad play there to get us out of rhythm and put us in a 3rd and 13 or a 3rd and 11. So you need to have some big strike plays and some capabilities to hit the big play and shorten the drive or even score quickly. And so I think that's a key to the game as well. If we're running the football effectively or we're just running it a bunch and the Dolphins have to respect that and you get some opportunities down the field, you cannot afford to miss. If you're the Redskins, you have to hit those big play opportunities down the field when they present themselves. Also on the defensive side of the football, they've got some guys. Preston Williams and Devontae Parker are 2 big receivers that can go up and get the football. They have some explosive backs in Kalen Ballage and Kenyon Drake. If we're not careful, those guys aren't afraid to pop a 76-yard run for a touchdown. They have the speed and the ability to do it at any time. And if we're not careful, those big play receivers, those big guys can go up and get the football in a 50-50 situation. This is the type of game Josh Norman should play well in because there aren't any speedy receivers necessarily that should get behind him. These are bigger receivers that he should be able to stay in the hip pocket of and be able to contest the football. So I expect the defense to have an opportunity to get off the field on third downs, to get pressure on Josh Rosen, to be able to make some plays. But it all starts with stopping the run. Don't allow Josh Rosen to be comfortable by having it be 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2, and be able to kind of manage the game and make him have to win the game. And if he wins the game, then you just say, yep, that's that Redskins stinking ass defense. If he goes out and throws for 380 and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, then you say, well, yeah, hell, they got us. You know, and our defense, that's our defense. That's been our defense all year long. But if you force, if you force him to beat us and they can't run the football, I like our chances to get the job done, because I don't see Rosen going out throwing for 300 yards or 290 or 270 without making a mistake or two in this ball game. And so you have to force Josh Rosen to beat us, which means you have to stop the run, something that we didn't do very well in the second half of the game last week. I said all of that to say this, that temporary boost coupled with a team that I expect to be a little bit more disciplined, coupled with the fact that the Dolphins have the worst rush defense and the Redskins are going to make it their business to run the football in this game, it all bodes well for the Redskins. And I think when it's all said and done, it all trends in the direction of a Redskins 24-20 victory over the Dolphins. It's not going to be easy. I think we're going to have to sweat for this one. But when it's all said and done, I think we find a way to escape Miami with a victory and get our first dub of the season. I don't know how excited you guys are going to be. I'm not going to be jumping on the roof and climbing up walls. If we win, great. If we lose, okay, fine. We stink and we're probably the worst team in football. And you know what? I'm okay with that, because I've already come to grips with the fact that we're not a very good football team right now. So we'll find out a lot about just how bad we really are, because the Dolphins, as someone eloquently put it, are trying to lose football games, and we're not. So if we can't beat a team that isn't really interested in winning, then that tells you a lot about where we are in our maturation this season in 2019. So there you have it. That's what I think is going to happen, and we'll see if the Redskins are able to come out on top. I want to hear what you guys have to think about this football game. Leave it down in the comment section. Score and more. Want to know what you think is going to happen, what you think the score is going to be, and why you think the score is going to be what it's going to be. All right. Looking forward to reading your comments and seeing how you feel about this game. Do you think the Redskins are going to come away with their first victory of the season, or do you think the Miami Dolphins are going to put the Redskins in the driver's seat for the #1 overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft? Looking forward to hearing from you guys. Remember, we've got skin in the game. Why? Because we're Skins fans for life. I'm your man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. This has been the Redskins Nightly News. I will see you guys on Sunday after the Redskins potentially get their first win of 2019. Have a good one.
Louie T Network.